Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get to the impact results. So those in the chat, I'm gonna go over here to the rundown of impact, and so I'll try to get to your comments here shortly. All right, so they open up with in memory of Sika Anawai, of course, Roman Reigns' dad, one of the original Wild Samoans. If you want a really good obituary, check out the Voices of Wrestling flagship from this week. I thought Joe and Rich did a great job, not only doing an obituary for him, but they did another obituary for Iron Mike Sharp because they all of a sudden started talking about him, and and I like hearing some of those old stories from the 70s and 80s. But I thought they did a good job breaking down the bloodline and breaking down the family tree and who is under which branch and all this and that, and the importance of Sika and his legendary career. Basically how he got started. And then, of course, in the Observer this week, Dave Meltzer. Nobody does written obituaries for wrestlers better than Dave Meltzer. People don't even try at this point because nobody's better at it than him. So the best people that do verbal obituaries is Joe and Rich by far. And they're very well researched. They do a ton of research for the obituaries, so check that out. Or if you just want to read one, Meltzer has a very good one in the Wrestling Observer. So check that out. I highly, highly recommend. I read the Observer and I listened to Joe and Rich, and now I feel like I'm an expert on Sika. But so Jordynne Grace comes out first. She's introduced to the ring. She's kicking off the show. And Gia Miller has a conversation with Gia Miller and the Knockouts champion in the ring, and talks about Trash by Elegance trying to get her attention for a while now. She says she saw Santino Marella and she signed the contract. Ash gets a Knockouts title shot tonight, but then old Iceman comes out to interrupt her. He introduces Ash, accompanied by personal security. He says there's a contract and a match, but it won't be tonight. Instead, it'll be at Slammiversary. So that is your Knockouts championship match at Slammiversary. Let's get into this really quick because I have thoughts. Here's what I want them to do. I want Jordynne Grace to win this match in under 3 minutes. Just beat her ass. Ash by Elegance is not good. I'm sure she's a fine person. She's obviously a very beautiful person. She just can't go. And nobody thinks that she has a shot to win, and she shouldn't. Now, it would not surprise me to have her that TNA would book her to win, because they think that would be good heat, which it would not. It would just get people to not want to watch the show. And it would get TNA LOL type stuff. I wanted her to win the match in under 3 minutes. And then I want her to do another open challenge, and Natty Neidhart answers that challenge, and they get right into it. And they can do a draw at that point and set up a later match of Bound for Glory, but they need to do something like that. As far as I know, Natty has been moved to the alumni section of WWE, but she has not been announced as being a free agent at this point. So I don't know what's going on with Natty. But her and Jordynne Grace have been teasing for a while that they're going to have a match. And so I would very much like that to happen. Whether it be Natalya comes over as a WWE representative, or she's just a free agent now and she comes over, she's doing shots with Impact for a while before she goes back to WWE. I think that's the one thing that TNA could do to make their Knockouts division interesting again, because right now it is not. It is at an all-time low point for that division. And that's unfortunate because people have always hyped up the division for a long time. Even the people that hype up the division, they cannot get with what it is in its current state right now. I think there's a couple of people still saying that it's the best division in pro wrestling, but they know they're lying when they say it, because it is not even close. And then Masha Slamovich and Alicia Edwards, they start to come down the ring at this point. And then we get a big face-off between Masha and Grace. So it looks like we might be heading towards a match there. So Masha comes out for her match with Xia Brookside, and she actually defeats Xia in a decent little match here. It wasn't too bad. Xia has her limitations, but I thought this was a pretty decent match. So she leaps in her neckbreaker. Fans start chanting, "Let's go, Xia." She works over Slamovich in the corner. Edwards hops on the apron, but Brookside knocks her to the floor. The distraction allows Slamovich to hit Brookside with a kick and the snowplow for the victory. And it looks like we're probably heading into Slammiversary with Masha or with Militia taking on Spitfire. That's what it looks like to me. Probably on the pre-show. I would put that on the pre-show. All right. After a recap of First Class attacking PCO during his date with Steph DeLander is shown backstage, DJ Who Kid catches up with AJ Francis and Rich Swann. Who Kid gives them the International Wrestling Heavyweight Championship, which Killer Kowalski, The Sheik, Mad Dog Vachon, Abdullah the Butcher, and Dino Bravo, and others have held. AJ Francis declares himself the new International Heavyweight Champion. And Francis says Rich Swann will beat Nick Nemeth tonight. Who Kid gives them drinks to celebrate. It was Gin and Juice by Dr. Dre. I don't think they got a sponsorship. I think they're trying to angle for a sponsorship there. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty clever. But they gave free advertising to the Gin and Juice brand. Okay, guys. I cannot tell you how much I love this angle with the International Heavyweight Championship. I adore this angle. I think it's one of the best things they've done in a long time. Now, you guys have to know that I'm a big fan of pro wrestling history. But I read Pat LaProde's Andre the Giant book. And in that book, that basically they gave you the rundown of wrestling history in Montreal. And it was tremendous. And so when they brought this out, I was like, oh, that's so good. That is so good. He brought that belt back. Which I like as soon as I saw, I was like, "Oh, that's the International Heavyweight belt." I legit knew that. So now I don't know if it's the carbon copy. It might have been a remake, but I love that. And he's doing it just to be a dick to Montreal. Like that is awesome. That is such a cool angle for a mid card feud, and it's gonna get such good heat in Montreal. And PCO is already starting to hype it up and get people mad at AJ Francis. And I think Francis was the right heel to go with. I get the feeling the original plan was for Cardona and PCO in Montreal. That's what I think. But since Cardona got hurt, they pivoted to AJ Francis, and I feel like that's been a good pivot. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to put the International Heavyweight Championship on the line. AJ Francis defending against PCO. Now, he declared himself the champion, and it's not a recognized title. But I think that's where they're going to go, and that way PCO can get the victory, win the international title, because that's important to him because of the history of Montreal wrestling and the lineage of that title with Dino and all Killer Kowalski and Thez and, all those people that have held the title before. That's going to be more important to PCO than the digital media championship. So I think they can do the match. No digital media title on the line. It's for the International Heavyweight Championship. PCO can win, and then AJ Francis can keep the digital media title. I think that's perfect. I love that. In fact, I'm going to call for this, and I've been calling for a new mid-card title, upper mid-card title to be taken seriously, to where main eventers who are not actively vying for the TNA championship, for them to be able to compete with, because guys like Steve Maclin they should not be doing X Division stuff. Guys like Hammerstone, I don't want them in the X. I want X Division title, the championship, to be around like with some exceptions, but mostly super young, lightweight. I like Leon Slater. I want Leon Slater's speedballs, Mustafa Ali. Those type of guys, like lighter weight. And then of course on the younger side, I like having young up and coming talents fighting for that title. And once Mustafa Ali is done in the X Division, but he's not ready for the main event, he's not ready for the World Heavyweight Championship, he can be vying for the international title. You know what I mean? Like when Hammerstone gets back, if he ever comes back, I think he will. If he didn't have, if they don't have him booked for a main event feud, maybe he could try to feud for the international title. I think that's what that title should be. Like the United States title in WCW. Back in the day when Sting wasn't the world heavyweight champion and he needed some stuff to do, he would be in some good feuds and stuff. He did stuff with like Jake Roberts and like stuff like that. But there for a while, he was the United States champion. While he wasn't competing for the world heavyweight title. I think that's what that can be. Now, hold on. Lucha is about to get lit up I'm not going to go JD on Lucha, but he says, I agree, Mike, but the DMC can be that. Okay. Fuck no, it can't. that title was dead the moment it was created. It was dead. They put every geek that they had in that tournament to tell you that that title was not important. That title is a pre-show title. It's meant for social media. Now, I know Cardona held the title, and I thought he was a good champion. And Joe Hendry held the title. I thought he was a good champion. But their matches were comedy matches, and their matches were jokes. And it was meant to just be something for Twitter and for YouTube and stuff like that. I don't think that the digital media title will ever become that. I think they dug a hole with that title. It's never going to be important. Now, if you give the international title to PCO, look, it's been tough because AJ Francis bought the thing from Gino Brito and kind of brought it back. But that title has some lineage, and they can, now they have a history of champions that they can run down. You know what I mean? And if they want to go back to Montreal, it'll be back. But the digital media title is dead. But I like what they're doing with AJ Francis is the perfect digital media champion, and he can take it around to the indies and shoot angles with it, and they'll just put matches on Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that, and it's a pre-show title, much like the Knockouts tag titles. All right, Lars Fredrickson, it was with Danny Luna and Jody Threat, and Lars is like pumping these girls up. And he's been giving them tests. He's given them this big motivational speech, and now he says they have to wrestle each other in order for them to get ready for a tag team title shot. Okay, here's the problem with this angle. The one thing that Spitfire hasn't done in order to get themselves ready for a tag team title shot is win tag matches. They've, like Jody, I think Jody beat, or I can't remember if it was Jody or Danny beat Tasha Steelz, and now they're going to wrestle each other. They should have been wrestling tag team matches, not singles. So this whole thing, the plot holes are too big. So now I don't care. But again, I mean, it's for the Knockouts tag titles. It's going to be on the pre-show. Nobody's going to care about it. Speaking of dead titles, Knockouts tag titles are dead. Although I do like Militia. And then Mustafa Ali is going to do a State of the Union. So Campaign Singh's in the ring. He informs us that the man we have all been waiting for is in the building. He introduces the TNA X Division champion, and out comes Ali for his advertised State of the Union address. And then commentators remind us of the alleged distorted bonus footage of Ali's sit down with Hannafin being shown at Against All Odds before Ali begins to speak. Ali thanks everyone for their warm reception. I thought this was a good segment to have on the same night as the debates. This show died because they were not going to be in the top 150 no matter what, but the debate basically eliminated that possibility. Ali said he's there to address something that happened, which is the aforementioned video that aired showing his true colors. He brings up the distorted audio and unclear images. He says he knows that the fans want the truth and we demand the truth. Ali says he found the truth after having Campaign Singh launch an investigation. The truth is that video was AI generated fake news. I thought that was good. I like this whole thing. I like Ali. I think he is awesome. He assures the fans that he would never belittle his great hometown of Chicago. He says they are number one. He's such a shithead. I love him. He's so great. The most of what they are number one for is crime related, but still they're number one. With that in the rear view, Ali insists that it's now time to move forward and look to future challenges for his X Division championship. And then at this point, there's some plants in the audience. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is smart. This is good because like TNA fans, I don't know what's going on with them, man, but they're not really into the stories. but so TNA smartly put some plants in the audience to generate this, and it worked. I thought they did a good job, but there's a few fans in the audience, plants that says we want Speedball. Look like they're independent wrestlers, like we want Speedball. And Ali says, no, we don't want Speedball. Speedball couldn't hang with me if his life depended on it. He then asked Chicago who would like to see. They chant the same thing, and Ali says he's trying to play nice. He demands a group of hecklers be ejected from the building. So the hecklers are obviously the wrestlers that are planted. He exits the ring and points out that the fans he wants thrown out, and then one of the fans throws a drink on him, on Ali before leaving. Ali beats the fan up, pulling him over the barricade, brings him into the ring, starts kicking his ass, and then Speedball comes out to a big ovation. Runs out, tackles Ali. Trent Seven's out to calm things down. Security tries to keep everything in order. Ali pretends to leave, but then charges the ring and leaps onto Bailey to get the fight going again. It is broke up again, but Bailey ends up with the X Division Championship, which she holds up to Tana Ali. Ali rolls back into the ring and grabs the mic. He says he's sick of hearing the fans chant his name. He's sick of being accused of dodging him. He says he ruined his homecoming, and so now he's going to ruin his. He's laying out the challenge for the X Division Championship between Ali and Bailey at Slammiversary. Bailey is happy, throws the title back before heading to the back. That is the match, in my opinion, the main event of Slammiversary. That angle ruled so freaking much. That was one of the best angles on TNA television in a while. It was awesome. It was fantastic. That's the main event of Slammiversary, and nobody can tell me different. That's it. That's your freaking main event right there in Montreal. They have it. And it's going to be so freaking good. And Ali taking to Twitter saying that he's going to, give it everything. I think, I doubt Dave Meltzer even watches it. Who gives a fuck? But that's probably going to be 5 stars. Go to Cage Match after that one and vote. I get the feeling that's going to have so much heat. It's going to be so awesome. Ali is such a great heel. And he's going to be doing Montreal taunts leading up to it, which is smart and perfect. It's fantastic. I love it. It's gonna be great. I cannot wait for that match. I'm so excited for it. Lucha, I'm gonna get to you afterwards. Lucha's he's the one fan of the digital media title. All right, and so I got people fact checking me. Let me get through this review, and then we'll go on to fact checking me. But all right, ABC defeated Jake Something and Diener versus the Rascals. I thought this was great. And Diener takes the L here, and what I really enjoyed the match. It was kind of like not really like a advertised match. I get the feeling this is ABC winning this is their entry into the Slammiversary tag team title match with the system, which obviously should be a good match. It's a rematch. I think everybody was wanting the Hardys to get that match, but the Hardy match is in Philly tonight. And it's one of the downsides when you bring Jeff Hardy over. He just can't get into Canada, so they can't do the match in Canada. So they got to go with ABC. And that's it. So you're not going to get the Hardys versus the System in at the pay-per-view. You're going to get that on television, and it's because Jeff just can't make it into Canada. So that's the tough thing about having Jeff Hardy in your company. The guy he shot himself in the foot too much and derailed his career. That was it. What's next? Okay, yeah. So Diener gets the pin here, or Diener gets pinned. So there you go. And then we go backstage. The System are shown. They talk about Santino Marella always trying to stack the deck against them, but they always end up on top regardless. Moose brings up not losing a single match in 2 years now. He says the one person that might be a problem, but Johnny Dingo Curtis is going to handle that potential problem for him. And we head to another commercial break after this wraps up. And then Maclin defeated Callihan in a Road to Slammiversary qualifier. Okay. An extensive video package airs to promote the next Road to match. These video packages before these Slammiversary qualifier matches are so freaking good. And I'm going to give credit to George Barbosa. I really need to find out if he goes by Jorge or George, because the way it's spelled, it could be either way. So I actually need to ask him that, since I do talk about him. So I'll probably shoot him a message after this just to clarify. But an extensive video package airs, and it was fantastic. And the one that they did last week with Josh Alexander and Eric Young, I also thought was really good. I like what they're doing with these, and I hope that in the countdown to Slammiversary, or their if they put together like a documentary promoting Slammiversary, I hope that they they put these in there in the lead up to it, like how much being in the match meant to everybody that's actually in the match. So I like that they made it seem important, and that's a big deal to me. I love pre-match hype videos. So and it reminded me of some of the stuff that the UFC used to do on their countdown stuff that nobody really watches anymore. But this match was okay. Sammy did all his shtick, but we'll go here to the end. He said Sammy hit up another cactus driver into the pin attempt, but it still only gets 2 counts. So he hit 2 cactus drivers, and Maclin kicked out of both. So they're trying to make Maclin look pretty strong here. So that's good. Callihan looks for a cactus driver on the hard part of the ring, apron outside of the ring, but Maclin fights his way free. Maclin hits a running knee as Callihan was coming back into the ring, and then he hits the Mayhem for All and gets the victory, and to qualify for the TNA title match at Slammiversary. So there you go. So Maclin doing a little bit of a babyface run here, gets the victory over Sami Callihan. When I saw this match announced, I was kind of thinking that Callihan would win because of how they treat Maclin, but I'm glad that it's Maclin. Look, look, here's the difference between Maclin and Callihan. Maclin's in shape. Maclin looks great. Macklin's under contract. Maclin should have won, and I'm glad that he did win. But there will be a spot for Sami Callihan at Slammiversary. I get the feeling. Kushida then defeats Alan Angels. Not much to the match. Kushida catches the right arm of Angels as he leaps to the floor. He snaps the arm of Angels in vicious fashion before taking over the ring. Kushida hits a Tanaka punch to Angels as he leaped off the ropes, and then hits the hoverboard lock for the tap-out victory. And then after the match, Gresham, mask and all, attacks Kushida from behind. Gresham leans Kushida's head back and tries pouring that black ink into his mouth, but security runs out and stops him before he does. Man, I'm still not into the Gresham stuff. It's not getting over with me yet. I dig the mask, not digging Gresham what he's doing. But if they can have a match without the gimmicks, Kushida and Gresham would be very good. They're two amazing wrestlers, but I'm not into the gimmick here. And then backstage, we return from the break to the broken Matt Hardy, Rebecca Hardy and Jeff Hardy. Matt talks about the system putting their hands on his wife at Against All Odds. He announces a mixed tag match with Matt and Rebecca versus Eddie and Alicia in Philadelphia. This match is getting so much hate online. Not from like the people that were there last night, but just the announcement is getting so much hate. Specifically, my buddy King of the North, who's a big fan of the show. And that makes me love it. Because people hate Rebecca Hardy. She's got a lot of heat. They should keep her around. She's tremendous. So look, Alicia sucks in the ring. I get the feeling Matt and Eddie will make this match so much fun. Actually, if Billy, if you're in the chat, can you just tell me how that match was? Don't tell me who wins. I don't want to put that up on the screen, but if you can just give me like tell me if that was like how it was in the crowd heat for that, I would appreciate it and I will address it. So Billy, if you're still in the chat, I would appreciate that. But yeah, and then they announced the Hardy Boys versus the System tag team action also coming up in Philly. And then we get to the main event. Nick Nemeth defeated Rich Swann. I thought this match took a while to get going, but once it did and we got rid of AJ Francis, it turned out to be a very good match. There was one spot in the match specifically where they kept trading shots, but they were like slapping their own asses the whole time, like a typical Rich Swann thing. They were trading super kicks that the camera, they were doing super kicks to each other, but the camera kept cutting because I don't think they were making any contact. And they were just slapping their own asses, so it kind of looked weak, to be honest with you. So that took me out of the match a little bit, but then they were able to get me back into it. Hold on, swig of coffee for ass slapping. The match ended up being pretty good. But Nemeth brings over that WWE style. So his WWE style is like he's got to, lull you into it and then all of a sudden pick it up, and then hit the finish. So his matches are a little bit different than what, your modern indie style. He brings that WWE style, which is like, I'm not insulting it. It just took a while to get going. And I'll be honest, when I was watching it, it was like 10:30 at night on a work night, and your boy likes to go to bed at like 9. So I didn't get to start the show until after 9 on Thursday night. And so by the time this match came on, I was pretty fucking tired, but I ended up rewatching it this morning before the show started. And so I have a new appreciation for the match. But Thursday, I'll be honest, Thursday night, because I was so tired and it just took so long to get going, I was not really that into it, but rewatching it was pretty good. Swann picks up Nemeth, but Nemeth drills him with a big punch. He invites Swann to hit him back, and then Swann happily obliges the two trade shots back and forth in the middle of the ring, and then Nemeth hits a big headbutt and a super kick. He runs into a super kick by Swann and then delivers another one of his own, followed by a DDT. He then hits the danger zone for the victory. With the win, Nemeth joins Steve Maclin, Josh Alexander in the 6-way for the TNA World Championship match at Slammiversary. So that is the show. Let me get back to the chat here before we take off. Let's see. Did Billy address it? Yes, he did. He says the mixed tag match got a great crowd reaction. So, yeah, I figured that it would because Alicia's, look, you can say what you want about Alicia, but she's got kind of like that Vicky Guerrero heat. And so I think that's good. Okay, now Lucha wants to debate this DMC title, but hold on. I just need to have Lucha on the show soon. Lucha, you need to come on. Let's try to get you on the show. That way you can have your say. See, Booker T bought the Legends title. The Legends title sucked. I'd never liked that title. Okay, Lucha said a bought title that's almost 100 years old and has a negative 70 relation to TNA is more of a credible upper mid card than a title held by two former world champions. Look, they can make the title something because it's a new title, so they have an opportunity here to make it big. And by introducing the lineage of it and seeing the crowd in Montreal go crazy for it, they have an opportunity to make it in a good upper mid-card title. The DMC title was dead on arrival, and it's been mostly dead. Like, Crazy Steve was the last champion, and he only wrestled ever on the pre-show. But yes, Jordan Grace was the champion. She had it for a cup of coffee. Matt Cardona had it for a cup of coffee. But Laredo Kid had it for a little bit. Like, it is like the TV title that WCW had, but lesser than, I would say, because at least the TV title, Arn Anderson was holding that title, and it was built around having great matches in under 10 minutes. Like Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton and Steven Regal was a great television champion. Like Steven Regal would have matches with like Yuji Nagata and stuff. Like, it was meant to be a workers championship, and then they had the 10-minute time limit. And I thought that was kind of cool. DMC title doesn't really have a great identity at this point. But the identity that it does have is because it's more meant just to be defended on the internet. That's all I'm saying. Lucha says, this was Sammy's best match in years. Video made me give a fuck about Sammy. I hope Callihan gets on the card in a high-profile match as he is Mr. Slammiversary. I agree that he is Mr. Slammiversary. He has had some really great, like the Pentagon Jr. nailed it. Tessa Blanchard match, nailed it. One of the better matches that TNA had for years, and nailed it. They were not even supposed to be the main event. They became the main event. Like the day of the show, they pushed them to the main event. I think the main event was supposed to be a Brian Cage world title match, and but this one had so much heat that they had to put Sammy in the main. And then of course we get to the next year. It wasn't the next year. No, he didn't have. I think he might have been in the main event of the pandemic. So the first pandemic Slammiversary match. I think he might have been in that main event where Eric Young and Rich Swann came in. I think he might have been in that. But then the following year was the Omega match. And honestly, I liked the Sami Callihan Omega match better than I liked Rich Swann and Omega, because Rich Swann gassed out a few minutes into that match, and just Omega was wrestling himself by the end of it. So I like the Sami Callihan match much better, to be honest with you. So there you go. Jana says the main event was okay. Yeah, like I thought. I think if you go back and do like a rewatch of the YouTube version right now, probably have a little bit of a higher opinion. But I felt the same when I watched it the first time. And then Swann can still hang with the best of them. And then, look, I got to give credit, and thank you, Io, for bringing this up. Rich Swann is in good shape again. Yeah, I think he looks good. He's Rich Homie Swann has gotten himself back into shape. Absolutely. So, hey, guys, I think that is going to do it for me this week. I really appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for being Patreon subscribers. And if you're watching some of these clips on YouTube, thank you for being a YouTube subscriber. Please consider coming over and joining the crew here on Patreon. Join me every single Saturday morning. Swig of coffee for Like as Lucha, a swig of coffee for Aslab, a swig of coffee for the Patreon subscribers. In the community that we've built, I have fun with you guys every single Saturday morning. And make sure to tweet at Lucha Doncic and tell him that he needs to come on here and defend his takes on the Digital Media Championship. But yeah, that's definitely going to do it for me. I got to get going. I just heard my kid downstairs looking for breakfast. So it is 7:07 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. That is going to do it for me. And until next time, mahalo.